Headlines this morning, and on the Standard on Saturday, on the front page there, 3 varsities face ban in degrees scam. The Commission for University Education has written to the CS Matiang'i recommending that 3 private universities be stripped of major powers to offer degrees in a major government shake-up to streamline higher education in the country. Among those universities, on the front page there, we have Gretsa University, the Kiriri Women's University, as well as the University of East Africa. And this is something that we've seen Matiang'i really work to do to streamline the education sector, but he has just now begun working on higher education. Francis, your thoughts, first of all, on the education sector as a whole before we get into this?
I think there is there are a lot of issues that are taking place within the education sector. For me, it's for the good of the country, because if you go where we came from, because education never started from Africa. It started from Europe and then it came to Africa. If you look at the context of education, there is a lot of interrelationship between education and what happens in the industries. There is a very major intercorrelationship. Even when universities are doing research, it's never hypothetical. They are handling real situations in the market. They are researching on problems that are facing the industries. But when you look at our country, most of these things have nothing to do with the daily livelihood of the people. So I think it is steps in the right direction, because we need to get back, if not where we were, but to a better position, where whenever we are doing research, whenever a university is offering a course, it is not offering it for the purposes of making money. It is, the objective should be bridging the skills gap that are within our labor industry. So it should be synchronized so that it's very clear that the educational sector is responding to the needs in the market, and kind of do away with this commercial appetite, where universities are just offering courses, yet they do not even have the minimum threshold in terms of the technical facilities that are required for specific courses. So I think for me, Matiang'i is in the right direction. He should move with speed and make sure that the courses that offer particular degrees, those degrees are recognized all over the world, not just in Kenya.
Right, and speaking of the commercialization of university education, because taking a look at these 3 universities, some of the issues that have been singled out by the Commission for University Education is the fact that some of them are offering programs that have not been accredited by the Commission for University Education. In some cases, it takes 9 months to complete an undergraduate course. And this is universities that are, in our country. Caroline, we've had a lot of complaints of the fact that university graduates over the past few years are half-baked and not ready for the corporate sector. Your thoughts on what Matiang'i is doing so far?
It is important. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's important for us to streamline education, because every year we churn thousands of graduates. And gone are the days of our parents when someone graduated from university, you'd know they'd get a good job, they'd be a good quality citizen, and they'd produce to the system, to the economic growth, they'd be in the workplace. But now a lot of graduates, they want to get A's and honors in universities without even attending classes. And the saddest thing is some of our leaders, we see them even graduating with university papers, and stories are told of how they've never been to class, people sat exams for them. And so I believe Matiang'i needs to return back the quality of education, especially among our young people. And if our graduates do go through proper education, they realize that they too can be job creators. Not everyone should be looking for a job. There is no economy, then even America in itself, with its 200 years, cannot uphold all the graduates to be able to be employed into the workplace. So graduates need to understand that they need to be innovators. The universities also need to equip them to develop their talents. We have a lot of talented people. For instance, in this country, we have a lot of engineers, but look at our roads. We have a lot of doctors, but look at the health sector. So it is not just about graduating, but the quality of the young people that have graduated, the quality of education that they've earned that will transform our nation and actually transform the youth of this nation.
Right. And even as we say that, should we really just only blame the graduates per se? Because at the end of the day, we have these universities that are out here offering shortcuts for these desperate young people who want to graduate as fast as possible, want to spend as little money as possible in obtaining that degree. I mean, Victor, the problem is a lot bigger than just the graduates looking for shortcuts.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I'm really grateful and thank you for hosting me. This is my first show in KTN.
Welcome.
Just to be brief on the matters of the matters on education system in Kenya, the education system was rotten, actually. If I'm allowed to use that word, yeah. It was rotten. But I must say I'm happy with the Cabinet Secretary Matiang'i for the good job he's doing. He's trying to streamline the education system in Kenya. How on earth would one do a course for 9 months and get a degree?
So that's a problem that needs to be addressed. But even from this university saga and the saga of degrees, we've this week also seen the issue of credentials for political leaders and aspirants also coming out. Top of the mind, of course, is Mombasa Governor Hassan Ali Joho. And the bigger question that came out of this, other than the political power play, is whether good grades and academic credentials really translate into good leadership. Francis.
Yeah, I think let me be quick to demystify the notion that you cannot take 9 months or 1 year to get your degree, because it depends on where you're coming from. There are people who have gone, they have done certificates, they have done diplomas, they have done higher diplomas. So basically, normally what happens, you are allowed to present your credentials and you are given credit hours so that you are exempted from some things that you have already gone through. There are even institutions, even abroad, which even look at your expertise and your experience so that if they match up, and that's why always when you get to the papers, when they're advertising for positions, they say you are required to have this or an equivalent. No, the task has been to prove that equivalence, and I think that is where most people are misusing. But there is a possibility that you could have taken 9 months, but rightly so, because there are people who have passed through the long process. And by the way, I want to be quick to say, some of those people are very good in the market. The people who have passed through the long haul, which is the certificate, the craft certificate, the diploma, the higher diploma, they have been some of our best people in the industry out there, particularly not in the intellectual market, but in the actual industry where you are manufacturing and giving services. But I will also be quick in saying that the fact that you have an A does not necessarily interpret that you are a good leader. You could be having an A, but you are a poor leader. But you could also have an A, but you are a very good leader as well. So really, it is not the sole determinant as to whether you are a good leader. I know, for example, of somebody I for example, taught in Sunday school, who actually obtained a D. But today, he is a pilot. I don't want to say where, but I want to tell you, somehow he worked his way. He worked his way, and he actually got a scholarship. He went out there, and when he sat for his bachelor's, he was the best student in that class, outside the country. He was given a scholarship to go to Europe to do masters. He was the best student out of the class. And he had students of A's and etc.
So these opportunities and good grades do not translate into good leadership. But
not necessarily.
What you're bringing up is another issue.
We should have a benchmark.
It's another issue that I'd like us to discuss.
Yes.
Whether everybody who gets that D and below has that equal opportunity or to also become a governor, to also become a pilot, like you're saying. But let's hear from Caroline for a minute. That same question. Do good grades really translate into good leadership?
First of all, I'd like to say only maybe 10% of Kenyans do get that A or that B+. plus or that A minus.
I mean, let's focus on just last year alone. Only 400 Kenyans got A's.
Which is like 0.0%, something percent. So I'd like to say there's no student or there's no young person or there's no one in life who has got a D on their forehead or a C on their forehead. It depends on what you want in life, the vision you have, you know. What are you a go-getter person? So for me personally, regarding our leaders who have Ds, or they say our president has a C, or which other person has a B, first of all, I'd like to say our grade does not define who we are, because we have strengths, and we do know that our 844 system sometimes does not remove every strength. It applauses those people who are good in sciences. If I'm good in maths, every teacher will applaud me, but if I'm good in literature and humanities, I'm at the back. So in life, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. So maybe that person who got a D in leadership, maybe they're really good. But also it accounts to the quality of life that you want to get, what it is that you aim to get. A lot of our young people, they aim maybe to really get an A under all costs, but that A will never get you a job because it was never genuine. You do not know the cost of that A. So I believe, as much as those students who have gotten C, Ds, and Es, and I'd like to tell young people to own it, to go and actually be honest to your employers about it, and actually talk about your strengths rather than looking down at your weaknesses.
Right.
So that's what I'd like to tell them. Yeah.
And the question I was asking Francis earlier is, you know, whether everybody has really that equal opportunity. Victor, you're rather young, 23 years old, so you're probably still in school or just came from school. Like last year, only 141 Kenyans got A's, and we saw stakeholders in the education sector coming up in arms saying the marking was wrong. You have condemned thousands, hundreds of thousands of Kenyans who got a D and below to failure for the rest of their lives. So do you feel like we have those equal opportunities, that everybody who gets a D can make their way to whatever they want to be?
Yeah, first, the grade you get in school will not determine who you'll be in life. Life out here is, a message to my fellow youth. Life out here is not easy. And out here, the grade you got in school will not determine your life. What is important is you be smart. There's a difference between working hard and working smart. The life out here requires one to be smart. Street smart. Yeah, and
okay.
I just remembered a brief story. My grandmother, who only reached class 3, she's the director of a school, and it's one of the top performing school. In her own school, she has a posho mill, she has a biogas. So sometimes, and you see she never went to school, right? So sometimes we need to understand, most of the time we need to understand as young people, that a grade does not determine who you will be in life.
All right.
Yes.
I just wanted to add something and say that unfortunately, the grades have been defining who people are, because you realize even from the grades of last year, as you allude, many of the people who got good grades are from the schools, the better schools, in terms of being equipped. And that emanates right from even primary school. People from private schools get higher grades because of the way the schools are equipped and the caliber of the teachers that they have. So you can see already, even if it is not stated as a policy, but it has been defining. So basically, coming back to your question, does it offer equal opportunity? The answer is no. It is totally skewed. It is exclusivist, because all the way you go to Nairobi University, for example, and they say, and they have told us even before, and especially when the results came out, that almost 100% of the people who are taken into medicine are the students who got A's. And we even got to know how some of those A's were acquired. So there is no way, because of that minimum threshold, the student with a C+ or with a B- had no opportunity to do medicine. So to that student who wanted to become a doctor, he cannot or she cannot because of the benchmark that is set. And yet it is only factor that is used to determine. I would wish that, just like even if all of us had an A in Form 4 and we are applying for a job, normally we go in for an interview.
Right.
And it is the interview that is the greatest determinant. I would wish that even in taking up these medicine courses, there is another test that is taken by all the students, so that over and above the grade you get, it is either confirmed that you have that level of IQ that is required for the purposes of that course. But unfortunately for now, everything is skewed, and I'm hoping that when Matiang'i is through with the alignment of these universities, he gets to the aspect of the grades, because we are getting people who become doctors, which they had never wanted, because they have the grade. And that is why sometimes we have the kind of production, the productivity we are having in the various industrial sectors, which is totally poor, because by virtue of grade, you become what somebody else should have become instead of yourself.
Right, what
so it is already skewed, it is exclusivist, and we are telling Matiang'i, speed up. Out of what you have done, now get to this admission of the courses, so that you get people in their best, the courses that they desire most, they have ever aspired, they have ever looked forward to becoming. That is the only way we are going to increase the productivity. That's why the only way we are going to have a bicycle produced in Kenya by the engineers. That's the only way we are, going to have various things that are produced within this country. Yes.
Buy Kenya, build Kenya,
Yes.
right? So let's move on away from that and